All right, good morning, everybody. It's time to get started. Welcome to our Pep Talk. Pep Talks are something we do every month to make estate planning easy, understandable, digestible, kind of concepts in little bite-sized digestible chunks. We break down estate planning into topics and then we drill a little deeper into a discrete topic. So good morning, my name is David Feeks. I'm the owner and founder of the Parents Estate Planning Law Firm in Acton. This morning we're talking about essential legal planning for your young adult. And this is a topic that is very close to me. I'm now the parent of two young adults. And all of the things that we talk about this morning, the planning that we talk about this morning for young adults, my wife and I have put in place for both of our daughters. And I really understand on a personal level how important this planning is. So the first question that most people have is, why do 18-year-olds need any kind of legal planning? And the answer is that once your child turns 18, they are a legal adult in the eyes of the law. You are no longer in control of what's happening in their lives, and you no longer have access to certain information about them because they are recognized as legal adults. So for example, as a parent, we're all used to making decisions for our kids. We're all used to going to the doctor with our kids. We're all used to the doctor explaining things about our kids to us. And once your kids turn 18, that all stops. Physicians will no longer talk to you, and even kind of simple and obvious things like guidance counselors will no longer automatically share information with you. That information, from their perspective, has to come through your child. They can share information and communicate with your child, but to the extent that you need that information, you may have to get it from your child, which, as parents of young adults, let's face it, that's not always the easiest thing to do. So I have two daughters. My oldest daughter is about to turn 22. She's a senior in college, about to graduate in a week and a half. And my younger daughter is a senior in high school right now, about to go off to college in the fall. And she turned 18 during this past school year. And what my wife and I discovered when our oldest daughter turned 18 is that all of a sudden, people that we were used to communicating with us wouldn't communicate with us anymore. And that's a little surprising for a lot of parents, because you've got almost 18 years of making decisions for your kids and being involved in their lives. And all of a sudden, like one day, the day before their 18th birthday, you can still have all the same conversations you've had before. And then one day later, when they turn 18, suddenly all of that stops. So it's surprising, it can be disconcerting for parents, it can be upsetting for parents, but it's just something that you need to know about so that you can get prepared for it. So, it's springtime. We finally got some weather today that looks like it's actually spring here in New England. If you've got an 18-year-old, if you've got a senior in high school, everybody's getting ready for high school graduations. And then over the summer, everybody's going to be ready to send their high school graduates off to college. Here's what they need to have in place before they go off to college. Essentially, you need a plan for them that incorporates three critical, important documents. And I'm going to talk about each one and what they do. The first of those documents that your child needs to have before they go off to school, and if you've already got an 18-year-old or you already have a young adult and they don't already have this in place, now they need to get this in place. But the first document is a healthcare proxy. And in Massachusetts, that's the document in which your child would give someone else the power to step in and make medical decisions for them if they were unable to make decisions for themselves. If they get in an accident, if they're unconscious in a hospital, and someone needs to make medical decisions, a healthcare proxy would appoint someone to step in and make those decisions for them. Now, for a lot of 18-year-olds, that person or those people are going to be their parents, either one of their parents and then the other, or both of their parents as co-agents, co-decision makers. But with that document in place, that will allow you or someone to step in and make decisions for your child in a way that you are otherwise not able to once they turn 18. So that's the first document. The second document goes along with the healthcare proxy, and that's a HIPAA waiver or a HIPAA authorization. Now, HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, otherwise known as the Federal Medical Privacy Law, which basically says no identifiable healthcare information about you, me, or any adult can be disclosed to anyone else without our express written consent. Now, you can have a healthcare proxy in place. You can have the power to make decisions for your child and still not be able to communicate effectively or at all with healthcare providers or access medical records or medical information because HIPAA prevents that disclosure without a written authorization. So the second most important document is to get a HIPAA waiver in place as well, which gives the people your child has nominated to make decisions for them the ability to access all of the medical information you might need to make informed and intelligent decisions on behalf of your child. So that's the first two documents: healthcare proxy, a HIPAA authorization or a HIPAA waiver, and then the third document is called a durable power of attorney. And this is a document that gives people the power to make legal decisions for your child, to take legal actions on your child's behalf, to access financial accounts, to make financial decisions, basically to make all kinds of day-to-day decisions that your child, now as an 18-year-old, is getting used to making for themselves. But if they are incapacitated in any way, it would allow someone else to step in and make those decisions and take those actions on their behalf. Signing legal documents, filing a tax return, going to the post office and picking up certified mail, managing social media accounts if necessary, all the kinds of things that, you know, as adults we're used to doing on a day-to-day basis. So those are the three documents: healthcare proxy, HIPAA waiver, durable power of attorney, that your child needs to have in place once they turn 18. And with those documents in place, other people will be, that they have nominated, will be able to step in and take care of things for them and make decisions for them. And again, most young adults name their parents as these decision makers. They don't need to. They can really name anyone. But practically speaking, most young adults name their parents. So let me just share with you two kind of stories, two experiences that I've seen and had that will help kind of illustrate what can happen without the planning in place and how things can be so much easier with the planning in place. So the first story is the story of my nephew, who when he was in his early 20s, after he was out of college, he was still living in DC. And the whole story of what he was doing at 2 o'clock in the morning in DC on his bicycle it's never been quite clear to me. But one way or another, my nephew, it's a 22-year-old or 23-year-old, was coming home probably from a party. He was on his bicycle, he was riding home, it was 2:30 in the morning, and somehow got involved in a car accident where the car left. And he ended up lying in the middle of the road all alone, 2:30 in the morning, pretty badly injured. And ultimately he was found and he was taken to the hospital. And again, parts of this story still elude me, but my niece was also at George Washington as an undergrad still, and found out that something had happened. Maybe one of my nephew's friends somehow communicated with her. My niece called my sister, my brother-in-law, who live in Connecticut, and said, something has happened to William. You need to come to DC right away. So my sister, my brother-in-law hop in the car, are driving to DC, and are trying to get information about my nephew. By now, they know what hospital he's been taken to. But when they call the hospital, because my nephew didn't have any of this planning in place, the hospital would not release any information about my nephew at all. They would not even confirm to my sister and my brother-in-law that he was admitted to the hospital. In fact, he had been admitted under a pseudonym because he had been found alone, which apparently is protocol for the DC Police Department. So my sister and my brother-in-law are driving from Connecticut to DC, and the whole way along that drive, they know that their son is seriously injured, is in a hospital in Washington, D.C., but have no idea kind of what's going on, and nobody will release information because he's an adult and they can't. So finally they get to the hospital and everything works out fine. He makes a full recovery. Very happy ending to the story, but it was an upsetting time for my sister and my brother-in-law until things could get sorted out. and things could have happened quicker and easier had he had the planning in place. Now he does, by the way. Everybody learned a valuable lesson from that experience. Now he's got the planning in place. Both of my other nieces have all of this planning in place. Here's the other story. And the other story, I guess, is because when you're the child of an estate planning attorney, you tend to have things nice and neat and tidy. And that's my older daughter, Hannah. When she was at Quinnipiac in her junior year, which was about a year and a half ago, she developed mono. And she got really, really sick. And we needed to communicate with the healthcare center at Quinnipiac and with other doctors in the area. And we needed to coordinate care between her primary care physician here in Massachusetts and the physicians and the healthcare providers down in Connecticut. All of that was easy and simple and streamlined because Hannah did have a healthcare proxy in place and did have a HIPAA authorization in place that gave my wife and I the power to access all of her medical information and to communicate freely with all of her healthcare providers. So she was so sick that would have been very difficult for her to do on her own. She was exhausted. She couldn't talk. And it would just made it easy for primarily my wife to communicate and get everything set up. And it made it easy for us to go down and get prescriptions filled for her and then to bundle her into the car, bring her back home and kind of get her back on her feet over the course of 10 days to 2 weeks until she was strong enough and ready to go back to school. And there have been other times during her college career where she's needed to see healthcare providers in the New Haven area. And, you know, my wife has been able to coordinate that care through our health insurance and everything, just easy, seamless, smooth, never a hiccup. And so that's an example, and not to toot my own horn or anything, but that's an example of how planning can make things as easy as possible. My younger daughter, Sadie, is going off to college in the fall. She's got these documents in place, and so everything's going to be easy. And when she gets to James Madison in the fall, we'll get copies of all of her, you know, healthcare proxy and her HIPAA authorization to healthcare center at James Madison. And if anything ever goes wrong, now she's going to be much farther away than Hannah was from us at college. It'll just be easy for us to communicate and make decisions if that's necessary. So, you know, as we're heading into high school graduation season, and we've got a graduation, high school graduation coming up, got a college graduation in a couple of weeks, high school graduation a couple of weeks after that. As you're heading into high school graduation season and you're starting to think about, you know, the celebrations and getting your child ready to go off to college in the fall, part of the thinking about getting them ready for college in the fall should be getting this planning in place for your 18-year-old. The good news is you've got lots of time to get this done, but not as much time as you think, because once they graduate from high school, let's face it, we've got celebrations, we've got parties, and then suddenly you're, you know, starting to get things squared away for college, registering, you know, orientation days, and suddenly you're packing the car and you're heading off to deliver them to college. So what we have done is we have set aside time early in the summer through usually about July, when a lot of this gets done, for families to come in and get this planning done for their 18-year-old. For your 18-year-old, it's pretty easy and seamless. All they need to do is decide who they want to appoint as a healthcare decision maker and as a legal and financial decision maker. And it may be as simple as parents, or it may be somebody else, but they just need to decide a primary and an alternate decision maker. And then we create the documents for them. And then they come into our office and they sign those documents. The whole thing, all in, probably takes no more than a half an hour of their time making the decisions. It's about 15 minutes or 20 minutes of coming into our office, kind of going through the documents, confirming the decisions, making sure they understand exactly what it is that they're signing, having them sign the documents, and then we get them copies and a digital version of everything, and they head out the door with everything in their hands, and they're ready to go. So again, we're reserving times throughout the late spring and early summer to help you to get this done as easy as possible. If you want to take care of that, what you want to do is give our office a call and talk to Lori Darling, who's our client services coordinator, and Lori can explain the process, can explain everything that needs to be done, can get everything underway and started for your child and can just, get the ball rolling for you so this can get done. This is something I encourage you not to wait until it's 2 weeks before you got to take your kid off to college, because by then it starts to get a little bit hectic and it might be too late to get everything in place before they head out the door. And ideally, we'd like to see you get this done, get your child planned and in place all before they go. There's always time, of course, to do it when they come home on breaks, but that's, for a lot of kids, that's not the most ideal time. Get it done before they go off to college. You'll sleep better at night. They'll probably sleep better at night, knowing if something happens while they're away at school, there's not going to be any problems. And by the way, for parents who are watching or listening, if you've got kids that are already, older than 18, they're already out of college, you're kind of past this point, but they still don't have this planning in place. One of the greatest gifts that you can give to your child as a parent is to help them to get at least this part of things in place so that no worries, no issues as they, head off in their working careers, and as they start to go farther and farther away from you, that they've got this in place, and you will be able to step in if necessary and take care of things. If there are any questions, all you need to do is go into the chat window. I probably should have pointed this out right from the beginning. But in the chat window, if you go down to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a little kind of word bubble that says chat, and just click on that and a chat box will open up and you can type in some questions. So I want to go back and circle back to some questions if any show up. Right now there don't appear to be any, but I just want to hang out and just give you some time in case there are any questions for those of you who have been on live. We are recording this. This will go out to everybody who's registered for the call. If you have questions and you're watching the recording of this, you can send your questions to info@parentsestateplanning.com. Info@parents with an S, parentsestateplanning.com. Now I got to squint. Okay. Thanks, Andres. And we put the contact information in the chat window as well. Excuse me. Pollen is starting to get to me this spring. So if there's no other questions, we are about at the top of our time. Thanks again for joining me this morning. I love stepping in and doing these pep talks. It's a really easy way for me and just a casual way for me to share information with you. If there's ever anything that you would like us to talk about in a future pep talk, again, shoot an email to info@parentsestateplanning.com. Just put PEPtalk, PEPtalk in the subject line, and just let us know what you'd like us to talk about, and we'd be happy to do that. Thanks for joining us today. Good to talk to you, and we will talk to you again real soon. Have a great day, everyone.